Wednesday, June 27th, coming through live from Seoul, I'm Shin Se-min, and these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. Holding close consultations on various issues, the Koreas agreed to proceed with a joint study on railway cooperation next month. And a team of South Korean officials are heading to North Korea to begin prepping for a war-separated family reunion in August. Members of the Trump team are in China and in Russia. The U.S. defense chief is in Beijing to talk bilateral relations as well as denuclearizing the Korean peninsula. And Trump's hardline security advisor is in Moscow setting up a possible summit between the two leaders. Plus, the U.S. Supreme Court rules President Trump's travel ban on 5 Muslim-majority countries is constitutional, rejecting claims that the ban was motivated by religious hostility. We'll begin this morning with the latest cooperation between the Koreas. Officials from the two sides have agreed to start joint checkups on parts of the railroads located within North Korea and those that cross the inter-Korean land border. Our Oh Jung-hee starts us off.
The two Koreas will form a joint investigation team and get down to checking the status of North Korean and inter-Korean railroads next month. This as agreed at Tuesday's inter-Korean talks on connecting and modernizing railways between the two Koreas.
South and North Korea confirmed each other's stance that railway cooperation is greatly important to achieving a balanced economic development and common prosperity.
There are 2 railway lines the two Koreas are hoping to work on. The Gyeonggi line that links Seoul and North Korean city of Sinuiju and the Donghae line along the eastern coast of the peninsula. From July 24th, Seoul and Pyongyang will start a joint investigation on parts of these rail lines in North Korea first. The two Koreas also hope to jointly check parts of the railways that cut through the inter-Korean border starting from mid-July.
We agreed to connect and modernize the Gyeonggi and Donghae lines at a high level and agreed to arrange practical measures for design and construction. We will also hold a groundbreaking ceremony soon in accordance with the results.
However, concerns remain on these railway projects as South Korean resources and equipment will have to go into North Korea for construction, which may violate international sanctions on North Korea. The South Korean delegation explained,
"There might be times when our work collides with international sanctions, but the government's stance is that we will work these out within the framework of sanctions and after close discussions with the international community."
The two Koreas agreed to communicate further through their contact channel to settle on the detailed schedules on preparations for the joint investigation next month. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
South Korea is dispatching an inspection team to North Korea's Mount Kumgang for 3 days starting today. The team will inspect the resort that will be used in August for the reunions of families separated by the Korean War, as agreed at the Inter-Korean Red Cross talks last Friday. The team is made up of 20 people, led by the Director General of Seoul's Unification Ministry's Humanitarian Cooperation Bureau, Kim Byung-dae, and includes workers from the South Korean Red Cross and technicians. It'll check the meeting rooms, hotels, resting areas, and power supplies. And after this week's inspection, South Korea will start renovating the facilities in July or in August. 2 of the highest profile members of President Trump's inner circle have been dispatched to China and Russia for talks on North Korea and their bilateral relations. U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis landed in Beijing on Tuesday with the goal of tightening up security dialogue with China, despite increasingly charged Washington-Beijing relations. Becoming the first Pentagon chief to visit China since 2014, Mattis is set to hold talks with his Chinese counterparts as well as President Xi Jinping later today to stress Beijing's role in denuclearizing the Korean peninsula. And U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton is in Russia to lay the groundwork for a potential summit between Presidents Trump and Putin next month. The meeting could see Trump strengthening U.S. ties with Moscow amid the recent developments with North Korea and his feuds with other Western nations. U.S. President Donald Trump says China may no longer help the U.S. when it comes to coordinating sanctions against North Korea as the trade spat deepens between the world's two largest economies. At a Republican rally in South Carolina Monday night, President Trump said the U.S. lost $817 billion on trade last year alone, noting that the biggest loss was with China. He also made the remarkable claim that Washington was responsible for, quote, building China. Watchers say the comments reflect Trump's concerns that Beijing could be about to ease sanctions on Pyongyang. And President Trump's nominee to be the U.S. ambassador to South Korea has been approved unanimously by a U.S. Senate committee. Harris now awaits for a full Senate vote scheduled in July. Our Kim Hyo-sun tells us more.
The U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee on Tuesday unanimously approved President Trump's pick for ambassador to South Korea. Harris, the former chief of the U.S. Pacific Command, now awaits a full Senate vote expected for early July. Shortly after, he should fill the post that has remained vacant since the Trump administration took office 18 months ago. Harris, who is considered a hawk on foreign policy issues, had earlier supported the idea of pausing joint military drills between Washington and Seoul at his confirmation hearing earlier this month.
I think the whole landscape has shifted, and I believe that we should give major exercises, a pause to see if Kim Jong-un, in fact, is serious about his part of the negotiations.
Stressing the importance of continuing negotiations with North Korea, Harris also highlighted the need to create breathing space.
I think that we do need to create some breathing space for the negotiations to continue and to assess whether Kim Jong-un is serious on his part of the deal or not, and I think this gives us that opportunity.
If confirmed by the Senate, Harris will serve as Washington's top envoy to Seoul at a time when the allies are coordinating closely on a range of issues, mainly the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
And taking a look at some of the actions at the 2018 World Cup in Russia, 4 more teams advanced to the round of 16 on Tuesday, including France and Croatia. 4 other nations, however, including Nigeria and Australia, will be on their planes home later today. Our Lee Seung-jae has the rundown.
Day 12 of the 2018 Russia World Cup began with 2 Group C matches taking place at the same time. One of them was France versus Denmark at Moscow's Luzhniki Stadium. While France controlled the match throughout the 90 minutes, they could not penetrate the Danish defense, with the match finishing 0-0. But no matter, as both countries advanced to the next round, with France finishing first with 7 points and Denmark behind them with 5 points. The other match in Group C was Peru versus Australia. Andre Carrillo's right foot shot would give the Peruvians an early lead in the 11th minute, before Paulo Guerrero made it 2-0 for Peru in the 50th minute. Peru would hold on for the win and would finish third in Group C, while Australia finished rock bottom with 1 draw and 2 losses. Over in Group D, Iceland were looking to beat Croatia for a chance at the round of 16, thought their hopes faded when Milan Badalja's 53rd minute goal gave the Croatians a 1-0 lead. But yet another penalty, this time Dejan Lovren's handball in the 75th minute, allowed Gylfi Sigurdsson to convert the penalty and level the match at 1-1. But Iceland's comeback hopes were crushed when Croatia's Ivan Perisic found the back of the net in the 90th minute, giving Croatia 3 straight wins in group stage. Finally, Argentina versus Nigeria, where Lionel Messi was looking to guide Argentina through the next round with a win, while Nigeria only needed a draw to progress. Messi got Argentina started early on with a brilliant goal in the 14th minute of the match, but that lead was erased in the second half when a penalty allowed Victor Moses to level the match at 1 apiece in the 51st minute. But in the 86th minute, it was Marcos Rojo to the rescue for Argentina, with the Manchester United defender slotting home a composed volley from inside the box to give Argentina the win as they sneak into the round of 16 with the last gasp 2-1 victory. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And staying in Russia with the World Cup, it's the big one tonight for South Korean football fans. It's the team's last Group F match, and this time, this one of the powerhouses of world football, Germany. While the odds are heavily against them, South Korea's side can still advance to the next round if Mexico defeats Sweden and South Korea beats Germany by 2 or more goals. It's a tall order, but South Korea's head coach said anything can happen in football. Germany will be assured of progressing into the knockout rounds with a victory, and the match kicks off at 5 p.m. local time. And for the viewers in Korea, that'll be 11 p.m. on Wednesday night. The U.S. Supreme Court has upheld President Trump's travel ban targeting several Muslim-majority countries. The ruling gives Trump one of the biggest domestic victories of his presidency thus far. For more on this and other news around the world, we turn to our Arirang at the News Center. Aram, it's a huge win for Donald Trump.
That's right, Semin. A lower court had ruled previously that the travel ban was unconstitutional, but the top court overturned that decision in a 5-4 conservative majority ruling on Tuesday after a fierce battle among the justices. The opinion, written by Chief Justice John Roberts, rejects a challenge stating that the travel ban discriminated against Muslims. It also states that Trump was squarely within the scope of his presidential authority regarding immigration and national security policy. It didn't take long for President Trump to hail the ruling.
A tremendous success, a tremendous victory for the American people and for our Constitution. This is a great victory for our Constitution.
Meanwhile, Justice Sonia Sotomayor read a dissent aloud in court, which stated that the court failed to uphold the religious liberty guaranteed by the First Amendment. Tuesday's decision also came as protesters gathered outside the court building demanding the travel ban be scrapped.
And I never thought I would stand on the steps of the Supreme Court and hear the most fundamental pillar of our Constitution, freedom of religion, challenged. It is wrong.
The travel ban, which is in its third iteration, was put in place last December after the Supreme Court put the brakes on rulings from lower courts in the state of Hawaii, as well as courts in other states. The Syrian army has boosted its week-long assault on rebel-held areas in the country's southern province of Deraa with a series of airstrikes. Strike Media reported that the army intensified its offensive on Tuesday to clear the way for an operation to take a road linking the divided city with the nearby Jordanian border. State TV said the operation was aimed at cutting supply lines between eastern Deraa and rebel-held parts of the provincial capital. The UN estimates some 50,000 residents have fled the area over the past week, many of them heading to Jordan. The ride-sharing app Uber has been granted a 15-month probationary license to operate in London after a court overturned a ban imposed last year. Transport for London refused to renew Uber's operating license last September, citing it was not doing enough to safeguard the public, such as conducting thorough background checks on drivers. After a 2-day hearing on Tuesday, Uber's lawyers convinced the Westminster Magistrates Court that the firm had addressed the TfL's concerns and that it had cleaned up its act.
South Korea's rival political parties have finally kicked off discussions to bring life back to the National Assembly. Later at 2:30 p.m. local time, floor leaders of the 4 parliamentary negotiation blocs are expected to start talks that'll likely center on forming committees, one of the top priorities at the start of the second half of the 20th Parliament's 4-year term. The representatives will likely discuss the selection of the National Assembly's new Speaker and Vice Speakers and the heads of the 18 standing committees. South Korea's parliament has been at a month-long standstill after it failed to elect a new speaker when former Speaker Chung Se-gyun's 2-year term ended in late May. An independent counsel team charged with probing the so-called Drooking online opinion rigging scandal officially gets to work on this Wednesday. Headed by Special Prosecutor Ho Ik-bum, the team has up to 90 days to investigate the scandal that allegedly involves a close associate of President Moon Jae-in. If the president approves, the probe can be extended by a further 30 days past its 90-day mandate. It is highly expected to focus on allegations a power blogger named Drooking and his team manipulated online comments to sway public opinion on hot-button political issues in favor of the now ruling Democratic Party of Korea. Now, those likely to be closely scrutinized are certain ruling party and officials from the presidential office, including former lawmaker and now elected governor of Gyeongsangnam-do Province, Kim Kyung-soo. Turning now to a sudden reshuffle at South Korea's presidential office. It is the first such move by President Moon Jae-in since his term began well over a year ago. And given the economic circumstances in the country, the president's decision to replace his top aides for economic affairs and job creation grabbed the most attention. Our Moon Gun-young with the details.
South Korean President Moon Jae-in has replaced three of his key senior aides as the administration begins its second year in office and putting extra emphasis on household economics and job creation. The surprise announcement was made by the president's chief of staff Im Jong-suk Tuesday morning, only a day and a half after the South Korean leader's return from a 4-day state visit to Russia.
The president has appointed Presidential Secretary for Policy Planning, Chung Tae-ho, to Senior Presidential Secretary for Job Creation, and Yoon Jong-won, who currently serves as the South Korean ambassador to the OECD, to Senior Presidential Secretary for Economic Affairs. The president also named a new Senior Presidential Secretary for Civil Society, Lee Yong-sun, a district chief of the ruling Democratic Party, replacing the current Senior Secretary for Civic Reform.
Chung Tae-ho, who has also served as Secretary of State Affairs and Policy Coordination at the Office of the President during the Roh Moo-hyun administration, will step in to head job creation, while Yoon Jong-won, a former director from the Finance Ministry and currently permanent representative to the OECD, will replace Hong Jang-pil as Chief Secretary for Economic Affairs. Lee Yong-sun, named to the post of Senior Presidential Secretary for Civil Society, used to head the policy planning team at the Citizens Coalition for Economic Justice. The presidential chief of staff explained Tuesday's reshuffle, the first of its kind since President Moon took office in May 2017, was largely aimed at further accelerating government efforts to reform the domestic economy and create jobs, both key economic objectives of the Moon administration. The shakeup of the president's top economic aides come as the administration's signature economic policy is starting to backfire a year into its term, with unemployment increasing despite its push to create new jobs and the income gap widening even more. Sources in the Blue House say the president decided he needed a shakeup when the May unemployment rate came up to an 18-year high and household income in the lowest quintile fell by a record 8% on year in the first 3 months of the year, even as it rose for high earners.
The past year has been a period of setting the policy direction of the Moon Jae-in government, which is income-led, innovation-led growth, and fair economy. I hope you understand the reshuffle as the president's determination to create actual results that the people can feel by stepping on the accelerator in the second year.
Moon Gun-young, Arirang News, The Blue House.
The South Korean government and the ruling party have revealed plans to double the funding for basic science research by the year 2022. The extra funds will be allocated to keep South Korea ahead of the technological curve and create some much-needed jobs in high-paying ICT sector. Our Kim Min-ji reports.
South Korea plans to put greater emphasis on research and development in the coming years as part of efforts to foster new growth engines and create new jobs. The agreement was reached Tuesday during a policy coordination meeting between the government and the ruling Democratic Party of Korea.
We are now in an era where our country's competitiveness is determined by the speed at which innovations in science and technology lead to the creation of new industries and new growth engines. In order to meet the fast-changing trends of the Fourth Industrial Revolution and changes in society, we must step up innovation across all areas.
For starters, the country plans to double the funding for basic science research to some $2.2 billion by 2022. This will be used to support innovative projects initiated by researchers and is aimed at encouraging creative research and development. The two sides also agreed to increase the budget for R&D to tackle environmental issues, such as fine dust pollution, to some $1 billion. And the government plans to revive a ministerial-level meeting on science and technology so that related ministries can step up coordination and work hand in hand. This is all part of President Moon Jae-in's goal of achieving innovative growth, by which technological innovation leads to economic growth and job creation.
This will be the basic blueprint for innovative R&D under the Moon Jae-in government over the next 5 years. Through enhanced innovation, we will achieve innovative growth, create new jobs, and improve people's lives.
The ruling party also vowed to do its part to amend relevant laws and increase the budget to ensure the smooth implementation of the policies and measures. The government will unveil a comprehensive plan on the matter in mid-July. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
The funeral service for the former Prime Minister Kim Jong-pil is taking place today at the moment as we speak. On the order of the government, Kim has been bestowed the Mugunghwa Medal, South Korea's highest order of civil merit. Kim passed last Saturday at the age of 92, and he is remembered as the founder of the Korean Central Intelligence Agency, now known as the National Intelligence Service, and has also served as Prime Minister from 1971 to 1975, and again from 1998 to 2000. He was the last of the three Kims who were political heavyweights in the 1980s and 90s, the other Kims being former Presidents Kim Dae-jung and Kim Young-sam.
Good morning. The monsoon front has moved southwards, dropping heavy showers on the southern parts of the country. So heavy monsoon rain is falling here and there across the southern parts of the country, and there will be rain all day today. And up to 100 millimeters of monsoon rain is expected, which could lead to flooding in some areas. So rain alerts are in place across the southern regions with warnings in parts of Jeollado and Gyeongsang-do provinces. But Jeju will be warm and sunny, getting up to 32 degrees Celsius this afternoon, while Seoul will also be warmer today at 28 degrees. Monsoon rain in the southern region is likely to continue until the end of the week. With that, let's take a look at the international weather for viewers around the world. So heavy rain will batter southern parts of South Korea, while North Korea will have passing showers along with thunder and lightning. Beijing will be hotter than New Delhi today as monsoon rain will bring cooler air to New Delhi. Sydney had a freezing morning with temperatures at 1 degree Celsius this morning, and midweek showers will bring even colder air to Australia. Temperatures are on the rise in New York, which could break its 87-year-old heat record this weekend. As for South America, Brazil's two major cities will be warm and sunny. Taking you to Europe, Kazan, where the soccer match between Korea and Germany will take place, also had some heavy showers with hail on Wednesday morning, but should turn partly sunny by noon. And lastly, to Africa, those in Cairo will see heat reaching its peak on Wednesday. And that's the weather update for now.
And that'll do it for us at the hour, but keep it tuned for more news updates coming up at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching and goodbye for now.